Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. So today I'm going to tackle what for me has certainly been a source of frustration. Enabling emojis in DWM bar on any distro that isn't Arch. So today I'm going to talk about how I've solved the problem, at least with Slackware. See you after the intro. Okay, welcome back. So, you all know that I enjoy using DWM and I use colour emojis in the bar. The reason I use colour emojis in the bar is, well, I tried some of the colour patches for DWM and I have had a few issues with them slowing the system down. And I know there were some other options. I think it's the status 2D patch and SLS status that I could have played around with. But instead I thought, well, I'm just going to use emojis. And in Arch, that's really simple because they have a special package of libxft that's patched and it works a treat. And it allows me to get, well, let me just show you my my desktop. And it allows me to get this particular look where I use these little colour emojis that you can see up here in the bar. And that's using the Joy Pixel emoji set. So I really like the look and I've pretty much stuck with it. And that's what my build of DWM uses. The problem has been that whenever I've looked at another distro, Slackware, which I'm using on my ThinkPads at the moment, or Void Linux, or Debian, it doesn't have the patch version of libxft in its repos. So I've stuck with awesome icons, to be honest, and they're black and white, they work fine, but they're a bit boring. And if I'm honest, it's one of the things that's kept me on Arch, the fact that I can use my preferred window manager and get it exactly how I want it to look. But I've transitioned on all my ThinkPads now over to Slackware, which I really like, and DWM, my build of DWM compiles absolutely fine, but without the colour emoji. So I thought, right, I'm sick of this. I'm going to do something about it. And I've managed to do it. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take you through the process of what I've actually done, which is working for me. And if you want to follow along, I've also created a Git repo where there are various files and bits and pieces that you can download if you want to follow along. So I'm using the virtual machine for demonstration purposes that I set up over the last couple of weeks. I've installed my own build of DWM on it, but all my DWM scripts, I've basically replaced the colour emoji with awesome icons. And because it's for demo purposes, I'm just restricting myself to an icon for the CPU, for memory, and for the hard disk. Let me show you what the problem is, though, the problem that we have if you don't do anything at all. So, moving this along, you'll see my copy of DWM here on my Slackware virtual machine. And DWM compiled fine, no problem whatsoever. And just to be safe, what I've done is I've just stuck to the font awesome icons on the right hand side rather than my emojis. The emojis are here. I can bring them all up, but the problem happens if I try and include them in this bar. So let's just have a look. If I go to my DWM scripts folder and I don't know, let's try this first one, DWM CPU, I think the script's called. It is indeed. And at the moment, I've just got this standard awesome icon on, which is just in black and white. So let me put this into insert mode and let's comment that one out and uncomment this one, which is the colour one. And let's see what happens. And that's what happens. I'm dumped out of it immediately as soon as I try and display a colour emoji. So in a nutshell, that's it. You get unceremoniously dumped out of DWM the minute you try and apply a coloured emoji to the bar. And there's a couple of things that you need to do if you want to rectify that. The first thing that you need to do is you need to make a slight alteration to one of the files in DWM. So when you download the source code, you will need to remove a specific part. Let me just move to my desktop so that I can show you this. It's actually in the drw.c file, and you'll see it there on your screen, and I've highlighted it. In mine, it goes from line 135 down to 146. And you can see that DWM are aware that this has potentially been a problem because it specifically says don't allow using colour fonts. It's a workaround for a bad length error from XFT. So even if you use a patch version of libxft, you're still not going to be able to use colour emojis in DWM unless you remove this part from dwr.c or comment it out, whatever. I believe dmenu and also st has the same section that you'll need to remove if you want to run colour emojis in that. But this is only part and parcel. For those who use Arch, you'll know that in the AUR there is a package called libxft-bgra. And this is a patched version of the libxft library that allows you to use colour emojis. I think it's eventually going to be merged into the main line, but that hasn't happened yet. So, how did I go about dealing with that error? Well, after many Google searches, and let me just change to a different workspace, I came across this GitHub page by someone called Udit for the sake of argument, libxft-bgra. And what this guy's actually done is he's put the sources up of libxft and he's patched it, which is great. And he even tells you how you install it. Just git clone the library and run the automate command that he has there and then do a sudo make install. Okay, so far so good. And I did try this a couple of times and it did work, I should say that. However, I noticed that libxft here was only 2.33 and Slackware is currently using 2.34. So I thought it might be quite nice if rather than using this, I patched libxft 2.34 myself. Of course, deciding I was going to do that and then trying to figure out how to do it was a different matter altogether. So I thought, well, the AUR has a package in. Let's go and have a look at what they do. And you'll see the AUR page here for libxft-bgra git, and it's 2.34. And I thought, right, well, let's have a look at their package build script. And they had the URL of the libxft repo, and they also had a little curl command here where you could patch those sources. And I thought, aha, so that's how you do it. So, needless to say, I went across to the libxft repo. I did a git clone of it. I then ran this curl command and I patched the sources. So, Brilliant. Apart from, we have some prefixes here. Sysconf directory, etc, prefix /user, blah de blah de blah. And I wasn't sure if that was appropriate for Slackware. However, I have a good friend called Darren Tadji Austin. I don't know why he uses that nickname. And he's the maintainer of the slackware.uk repo. And I said to him, look, this is what I'm intending to do. Can you give me some hints about the prefixes I need to use when I run this autogen command to make the source code? And as you can see in front of me, under this tab called Darren's Flags, he said, sure, use this. And I will include this, by the way, in the README at the bottom of this video if you want to do the same thing. And so these are the flags used to compile. I'm not entirely sure about what all of these do, if I'm honest. I just know that it seemed to work for me. The only thing that I have found, and you'll see that in a second when I continue with this video, is I found that since first doing this, I was having a problem with the with udev rules line there, in as much as it was coming back as unrecognised. Now, that wasn't a problem for me on real hardware, so I don't know whether it's something to do with running Slackware in a virtual machine, but what you'll actually see is me using all these commands to configure the source code without the with udev rules directory. So I asked Darren, I told him, and I said, do you think it makes much difference? And he said, nah, you'll be fine. So, fine, it's a nice have, but everything still seemed to work with it. So, with that, let's go to my virtual machine, and I'll show you what I did. Right, so here we are back in the virtual machine. So, you can see I've got all of these font awesome icons here, and I've got mousepad open on the desktop just so that I can do the various steps that I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a git clone of the latest version. So there we go, of libxft in my downloads directory. Okay, so that was all easy. Then I'm going to cd to libxft. Just do a list there. Okay, so all good. So I've got the source code for 2.3.4. The next thing, I'm going to do this curl command and patch that source code. So let's see if this works. Right, fingers crossed. Seems to have patched cleanly. Not a problem. So I now have patched sources. That all went a lot easier than I expected. We then have to configure it. So let's just copy all of this stuff and move over here and paste in. So that all looks fine to me. So let's hit enter and see what happens. I think because we're not used to compiling software that often these days, I sort of hold my breath when this is happening, but it seems to have started okay. As I said, I've tried this before, but I had the udev rules one in and it errored out. Hopefully this one all just continues doing what it's doing. And I don't see any error files there. So it looks like we've downloaded the sources, we've patched them, and we've compiled them successfully. Now, the next stage from here is installing this. Now, Slackware's version of libxft and this version of libxft is going to conflict. So before we can install it, I'm going to have to remove the original Slackware package of libxft. And I'm not quite sure what removing this library will do if I stay in a GUI environment. So I'm going to drop down to a terminal and we'll do a make install. Right, so we've patched the source code. We've compiled it. All looked fine. What I need to do, though, before I do a make install is I need to make sure that I get rid of Slackware's standard libxft because it will conflict. So I'm just going to root. I'm doing this in a virtual terminal so that I haven't got X running at the moment. And I'm just going to go remove package libxft. Right, so it seems to have done that without an issue, so all good. So what I want to do now is make install. I'm in the directory, the libxft-bgra directory, so let's hope for the best. Let's hope it all works. So this is, does that look like it's done it all? So it seems to have done it fine. It says libraries have been installed in USR lib64. Okay, well, I suppose let's reboot and see what happens. Right, so proof's in the pudding now. Here we are, we're back in. All the icons are still the old icons, so let's go about changing that and CD to DWM scripts. Right, let's open up DWM CPU. Right, so if I go into insert mode, I'm going to remove that from there. And I'm going to comment that one out. And as soon as I click save on this, we're either going to see a coloured icon appear in this first little bar here, or we're going to see it crash again. So let's see what happens. And we're just waiting for the... Aha! We're just waiting, I was going to say, for the loop to work with the script. So that all looks good. So let's just quit that one. And then let's go to memory. And let's do the same thing here. Okay, all good. Let's just write that and see what happens. Wait for that script to loop. All good. And then we've got the hard disk one. And let's do the same thing here. We'll remove that comment mark, put it in there, and let's just see if it works. And there you have it. So it works. Way! I suppose I could have done this differently. I could have just called it libxft and compiled a package for it and overwritten Slackware's own libxft. But I decided to just do the make install the traditional way. And I came away and I stuck with that for a few days. And then I thought, you know, what would be really good is if rather than having to go through that process again, I actually had a Slackware package. And I thought, right, so what do I need for a Slackware package? Well, I need all the various components that are in a Slack build directory, the Slack description and the info file and everything else. Okay, I can do that. But I need a Slack build script. Oh, and of course the sources as well. which I'll need to tar up the patch sources. So, well, that's no problem. But how do I go about building a Slack build script? Well, this is what I did. Let me go over to my desktop and I'll show you. I found that there's a few templates out there, but the one I used was what you can see here. Alien Bob has produced a web interface to generate a Slack build template. And so I use this, and it's really pretty simple. So libxft-bgra, you just enter the package name. What version? 2.3.4. Generate Slack build. It asks for a short description, homepage URL, download URL. I'm just going to leave those blank for the time being. Slack build options. To be honest, I didn't think I needed any of them, so I just left them as is. Slack description text. Text say what the package is. I obviously spent a little bit more time doing this when I was actually generating it. And you click Generate Slack Build. And it creates this Slack build script. So, all good so far. And it even has, all the build flags in there. But they're not the correct build flags for what I want to do. So I had a look through here and I thought, right, okay, so basically if I take this as just a basic template and assume that I can do whatever. Here it is, these are the build flags. So these are the build flags that Alien Bob's included, and I thought if I just change them for the ones I've got, maybe it will all work. So it usefully includes a Slack description as well, and essentially what I did is I just copied and pasted it, and made a few little changes. So program version libxft, I put it down to 2.34, I'm asked to put a tag here. I changed it to OTB so that the package will have OTB at the end. The rest are pretty much left as is. I'm just going to move down here. And you can see here, I've essentially just pasted in those use flags when I'm using it on the virtual machine. And the one you'll find on my GitLab, however, does not have this with udev rules directory. And I ran it. And everything was fine until line 120, where we got to the point of compress info pages and remove the packages directory file. If no info pages are installed by the software, don't leave this in the script. Well, it errored out on this. So clearly that didn't work for the patch source code. So I commented that part out. I had to comment another part out as well. I'm just going through to it. Yeah, the documentation side of it. As it says, the included documentation varies from one application to another, so be sure to adjust your script as needed. Well, it clearly wasn't in this these places here. So I commented those out again. And once I'd commented it out, it seemed to work fine. So I've now got a Slack build script. Let's put it together and let's go back to the virtual machine. Right, so let's bring it all together. What I've actually done is I've created a build directory. And within that directory, I've created a folder, libxft-bgra. And within the folder, I've put the tarred up sources file. I've also put the copy of the Slack build there. And I've also created an info file, a Slack description file, and a README. So just having a look at the README, it's very simple. A package that allows coloured emojis in Suckless software. I've also done what have I done? I've also done an info file. So .info. And I've basically followed the Slack build instructions to create this. I've also created a Slack description, which again, I've followed the Slack build instructions. And let's just clear that. I've also got my Slack build script. So I suppose the proof's in the pudding. Let's see if it will actually build a package. So I'm going to go to root here. And I'm going to run that Slack build script. So, and keep your fingers crossed. What we want it to do is to build a Slackware package for libxft-bgra and to put it in the temp directory. And that's how I'm hoping this is all going to finish off. So far, so good, I have to say. But let's see what happens. Okay, so it has created a Slackware package, so that's good. So I've already installed the sources, as you know, through a standard make install. What I want to ensure now is that this package that I've just created overwrites that. So I'm going to use upgrade package to install this with reinstall, install new. We'll put that in the temporary, or we'll go to the temporary directory now, and we'll look for libxft. Right. It's installed. Let's reboot and see what happens. So let's log in. If we've still got coloured emojis when we start this, it's worked. Oops. Helps if I can type. And we have coloured emojis. Yes, it's not full resolution in this virtual machine, but it works. Right, so that's it. I created another thing, libxft-bgra for Slackware. I'm still wondering whether or not I've done the right thing in creating a completely separate package called libxft-bgra, and whether or not I should have just created libxft and overwritten Slackware's own package without having to go through the process of removing that first. But my logic for that was I didn't want Slackware to overwrite my package every time there was an update. So it is what it is. I've done what I've done. My next kind of steps will be trying to create something similar for Void Linux and also for Debian. I think it's crazy at the moment that Arch Linux is the only place where you can actually get this package. Probably because DWM isn't that popular and people find workarounds with patches and what have you. But anyway, I enjoyed it. What I have done, I'll go to my desktop now. I have created a project on GitLab, if you go to my GitLab page. And what you'll find in here is the Slack build. So I've got the tarred up sources, patch sources of libxft, the Slack build script, and the info and description file. And for those of you who just want to install the package, oops, I've gone to the wrong one. For those of you who just want to install the package, well, there's my compiled package. It works for me. One of the things I would say, though, is I'm not going to necessarily actively maintain this package. I've made it for my own use. If you want to use it, that's great. But as I say in the description there, I'm not offering any form of support. So if it breaks your system, steals your car and runs off with your wife, you're very much on your own. So just as long as you're aware of that, guys. So, that's it really for today. A nice little extra. I've been wanting to do this for the last few weeks, but it's needed quite a lot of work to piece it together. I know it's not going to get huge views, but it's there in my reference library, and if I ever forget how to do it, I've got something to watch myself. So guys, thanks very much for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't done already, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can become a patron on patreon.com/OldTechBloke. And I'd just like to, I'll drag the file over with the names, support my existing Patreons: Robert Boudreau, Aristotelis Papagiorgio, Stormpix, Mike Long, Tiger, Forest Rhodes, Patrick Dano, Glenn Genoway, Magnus Johansson, and Darren Clift. Thank you very much, guys. Right, that's it for today. I'll see you soon.